Good morning, campers. Welcome to Breaking the News and the Mayday Network. I am Michelle Kinney. I'm here with the wonderful Julie Roginsky and Jeff Jarvis to talk about all things news, media, and all the things they are messing up. But before that, I would just like to wish an early birthday to Julie Roginsky.
Whoa, ho, ho.
Yeah, her birthday is tomorrow, folks. So if you're on the Substack or in the Twitters,
light candles now.
Light candles. Say a prayer. It's a lot of candles, my friends. It is a lot of candles.
Listen,
you don't know, old. You don't know.
To age is a blessing not afforded to everyone. So
that is true. I've always said that. I don't actually get upset about birthdays at all because the older it's worse. And I actually enjoy getting older because I think with age comes wisdom and a better sense of yourself and who you are. And
that's so grown up of you.
Well,
it is.
I am a grown up now. I have to go let my dog in because my son decided to let him out and did not decide to let him back in.
Poor Hagrid. Well, as I'm sure all three of us have lost friends and family way too young and way too soon. And, I feel like in my recent past of having lost friends much too young, it's a nice thing to celebrate another year on Earth, because it's not everybody gets to do that. So happy early birthday.
That's true. On the other hand, I think that Mark Zuckerberg, when he gets old, will regret having reminded everyone of everyone's birthdays constantly on Facebook. Among other things that he will regret.
That's why I'm not on Facebook anymore. So if you really know me, you'll wish me a happy birthday.
Because you feel compelled to wish random people a happy birthday.
I know. Then you can feel compelled to thank everybody for their
you spend half meaningless. The day going, thank you.
Yeah, no. I'm out of that.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. This is how lame I am about birthdays, anniversaries, all of that. We're in Pennsylvania. We have friends who asked us if we wanted to have dinner tomorrow night, not even knowing that it was my birthday. And I was like, sure, Saturday night sounds good. We're going to go to this, super casual place. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, it's my birthday. Not your last, which is pathetic because this summer, my husband and I were driving to dinner with friends and we were talking. And all of a sudden I look at him and it was like 6 p.m. We're on our way to dinner. And I go, what's the date? And it was, he told me the date. And I go, holy shit, it's our anniversary.
Yeah, I don't do dates. I don't do any of them.
We totally forgot.
And you just got married not that many years ago. So it's not like you've been married for...
It was our first anniversary. That's how late we got.
Oh, that's pathetic.
See, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait for it.
It's not that we don't appreciate each other or that we're married. It's just that we don't.
You're busy.
You're just so busy.
I'm not big on like my whole. And this is gonna sound so hokey, but if you're happily married, you'll understand this. Or if you're in a good relationship, because we've been together a while, we just happened to get married, but we've been essentially together for many years. And if you have a good relationship with somebody, you celebrate them every day. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's a very nice thing to say, Julie.
It's like Valentine's Day, for amateurs. Why do I
mean Valentine's Day sucks.
Valentine's Day is stupid because it's a Hallmark holiday. And do I need to really acknowledge that I love my husband? I do that every day. I don't need Valentine's Day to tell me that. I don't need anniversaries to tell me that. And I don't need birthdays to tell me that.
We don't need to enrich Hallmark with their treacly cards and TV shows.
American Greetings is owned by Koch Industries.
Really?
Yeah, don't buy those cards. Papyrus only, folks. Papyrus only. And Julie, how do you feel about your birthday falling on the White House Correspondents' dinner? Don't you wish you were going to be there?
What a way to celebrate!
So I will say this: two things always happen on my birthday. One is it always rains, literally, it always rains. If you want to ever remember Miss Congeniality. Do you remember that?
Do I ever? I
remember they're William Shatner was like, "What's your perfect date?"
Yeah. Not too hot, not too cold.
It's April 25th because it's not too hot, not too cold. That's my birthday. And I've always laughed. I'm like, actually, April 25th is not the perfect date because it is the date that if you want rain, I don't care if you're in the Sahara and there's a drought, there will be rain.
And the forecast tomorrow is for?
Rain, of
Rain.
course.
Rain in
And
Spain.
the forecast on in 2027 on April 25th will also be rain. So you could always count on that. And then typically, if my birthday falls on a Saturday, it always is the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And I will say this about the White House Correspondents' Dinner: it is the absolute worst, like the worst. And I don't understand how any self-respecting journalist is showing up. Though I don't, even when Biden was around, this is not even Trump related. We'll get to Trump in a minute. I don't like the notion of this buddy bullshit. Generally, you're supposed to cover these people that fear or favor. We all know they all socialize together. We all know that they do, and you hang out at Tammy Dodd's parties in Georgetown, and it's,
Yeah.
Captain Milano and all this shit. Like, I get it. But it's so absurd and wrong that I just, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts about it? I can't stand it.
Michelle?
Well,
first.
before I entered the world of politics and media, like for real, and I just really wanted a ticket in. You know what I mean? Like it looked like all the people who were doing the stuff were there. I wanted to go. But now that I'm inside, that looks like the worst place to be on earth. Not, first of all, I'll just say that DC does not know how to do a party. I'm just going to say it. They don't know how to do an award ceremony. They're just like, in terms of production value, never good. Maybe I'm a snob, but I just am. And so there's that. And it just looks boring. And I don't know. Like, it's just like a lot of people who want to be in LA, but they're in DC instead. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
Yeah.
They want to be stars.
They want to be stars. Yeah.
I have for years, don't know nobody cares, but for years I've called on the White House Correspondents Association to cancel the dinner. It is an exercise in a conflict of interest. It is the worst of access journalism. It is toadying foolishness. But this year is going to be the worst of all years for so many reasons, right? Number one, they don't have the guts or gonads to invite a comedian to speak truth. They instead have a mentalist, who's very good, by the way, but that's beside the point, unless he's going to try to get into Trump's brain. Two, Trump is going to be there destroying the First Amendment and the free press. Three other folks who are destroying the First Amendment and free press, and starting with Brendan Carr, are going to be there. Four, you have the state media of Ellison Inc. Inviting Trump, doing a special party beforehand in tribute to Trump. You have other members. You have Hegseth and I forget who the other one is, who they're inviting to their table, Barry Weiss. It's a shit show from beginning to end, and now there's a movement of people to buy these kerchiefs with the First Amendment on them as their incredibly weak show of strength. Like, look, we care about the First Amendment, and we're no. Stuff it in your underpants and walk out. Get the hell out.
You know what? I have a couple of observations about that. This reminds me very much of when everybody wore the Time's Up pins
Performative
at
nonsense.
Grammys or wherever the hell they were, right?
Yep.
It's complete performative nonsense. Because let me tell you something, nothing about Hollywood has changed since the era of Time's Up. So, I'm glad Oprah got to wear a Time's Up little lapels thing. And I'm glad that they all felt self-righteous about it. And I'm glad they all feel self-righteous that Harvey Weinstein has gone down. So therefore the problem apparently has been solved. And
yet he's still getting profiles like in the
right,
Times.
right. And it's the same thing here. This is performative bullshit. Who's the head of the White House Correspondents this year? Is it Jake Tapper? I don't remember.
Oh God.
No, it's the CBS correspondent, I think.
That would be so perfect.
Okay. So the only thing I'd like to observe at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, literally the only reason I would love to just be a fly on the wall there. And if you've ever been to Washington and you know the Hinckley Hilton, which is the Hilton on Connecticut Avenue where they host this, it is an awful, god-awful ballroom. It is a rubber chicken circuit.
It's not cute.
It sucks. It's not Cipriani, let's put it that way. It sucks.
Certainly is not.
But The only thing I'd like to see, and I'd love to hear your views on this, you guys, is how much everybody at CNN is going to be running over to suck up at the CBS table to Barry Weiss.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to be first in line to do that? I'd love to see her holding court, and I want to see which CNN correspondents are going to be lining up to ingratiate themselves to Barry Weiss at this event, because you will know by who's first in line there who the sellouts are immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not going to be. It's not Anderson Cooper's not going to be there, but it's not. It wouldn't be an Anderson Cooper. He already bailed on CNN, CBS because of her, right? And I don't know what his deal is. He's got a long-term contract at CNN, but I can't imagine he's long for the world there if she does what she's going to do there. But I'd love to know, and it's not going to be somebody like a Dana Bash, but I'd love to know, and I have my suspicions as to who the people are who are going to be running up to her and sucking up to her. Super, just curious as to who those people are. Thoughts, comments?
Well, my first comment just would be, I mean, my thoughts are like, obviously that's 1,000% going to happen. But if you want to actually watch it in real time, go onto the C-SPAN feed where they just have a couple cameras set up throughout the ballroom. Figure out, where everybody's sitting. It's not hard to figure out because you just look for a couple familiar faces, because there's a lot of time when they're just milling about the place. Go, take a look and see where everybody is. I mean,
Scott Jennings will be there, I assume, sucking up to her unless he's on Fire Island. But yeah, I think that's that's potentially. Yeah.
So any reporter who wants to try to redeem themselves a little bit should do exactly what Julie's saying. Stare at the CBS table all night. Mm-hmm. To see who's coming over, point one, and point two, see what Hegseth drinks.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Because Hegseth was going to give up the bottle to become Secretary of Defense.
Sure.
Great point. And by the way, we are in the middle of a war. Why is Pete Hegseth doing anything but prosecuting that war at this moment?
Because he doesn't care.
No, I know, but I mean, that's a question that's like of all. It's so fascinating to me because you have these profiles of all like they're going after Lutnick on the Epstein stuff big time, right? And to me, like Lutnick's a clown and Lutnick's a joke. And yes, Lutnick obviously lied before Congress about his relationship with Epstein. God bless. But he's the Commerce Secretary. Like, whatever. Here you've got Pete Hegseth, and somehow the press has now decided that Pete Hegseth doesn't deserve or merit this kind of scrutiny anymore. And to me, Pam Bondi's awful, and she's gone. And Kristi Noem, as I've always said, should be first in the dock, and she's gone. But the third stool to this is Peter Hegseth. He just is the third leg of that stool. And it's not idiots like Lutnick. It's not the former labor secretary. Like, who gives a shit? It's him. It's him with with all of his myriad problems. He is a crusader cosplaying murderer who has serious problems with his background with respect to drinking, with respect to women, with respect to management of staff. And I can go on. And all of that, and certainly with respect to race, because he has fired or has refused to promote women and African Americans and oppressing Catholics effectively by refusing to hold a Catholic mass for Easter for the first time in I don't know how many years. I personally don't think they should be doing any kind of religious stuff in the government, but if you're going to do it, you got to do it for everybody and not just with your weirdo, minister who hates women. I mean, when the Catholic Church becomes the progressive wing of the Christianity, like we've gone off the deep end here. But so
some of it,
right,
not the Supreme Court,
right, not the Supreme Court. But all of this is completely fucked up. I don't know how else to say it. And all of these people sitting around, and I don't know what Barry Weiss's issue is with Hegseth because she loves him. She profiled him. She loves him. See who else is there. I would love to know if the grieving widow Kirk is going to be there as well. Right? Like, is she going?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
And You have Caroline Levitt today saying that the Charlottesville march was a hoax. Remember, the Jews will not replace us?
Oh,
That
yes.
was a hoax. She said that today.
Jesus.
This is the woman who's going to be sitting among the media, hobnobbing with them, joking with them, laughing with them. And as somebody who was a communications director in Washington and on the Hill, which is not the White House, but it's, in the Senate, one step removed. There is a chumminess and a camaraderie that you have with reporters, and I still have with reporters, that I don't think many people realize. And I can guarantee you that with some reporters who I have a good relationship with, they have gone easier on my clients and on when I worked in the Senate, on the senator for whom I worked, because we had a good relationship and, yada, yada. These kinds of things happen at these kinds of events.
Yep.
And I'm not suggesting that you can't be friends with reporters. I'm not suggesting that you can't talk to reporters. I'm not suggesting you can't socialize with reporters. But this whole thing is so gross.
But to do it as a public event, to
public
revel
event
in it.
Where you get dressed up and you get your hair done and you get your makeup done and everybody's looking at what everybody else is wearing and everybody's posing for pictures with each other and throwing their arms around each other. It is the definition of access journalism, and it sucks and I hate it. And I've been on both sides of this equation, both in the news media capacity and as a operative capacity. And it's gross. And I'm here to, I'm not going to gatekeep this. I'm going to tell you that's how it works. And the rest of you aren't in it. You're just not.
Well, and that's the other thing is that it is very much a closed society. It is a mark of their privilege. And the Washington Post creator, which is a new thing that they have, did a story the other day reminding us that in 2024, the Substack head of news and politics, Catherine Valentine, tried to buy a table at the White House press dinner and wasn't allowed to because they're not real media. I think we can question Substack's judgment for wanting to in the first place. So they're holding a party anyway to get, and I don't know whether they got in this year or not.
They did it. Well, they had a party last year. Are they having a party again this year?
They're having a party this year as well. So is Beehive, their competitor. Okay. But I think, as you said, Michelle, they want to be Hollywood. They want this. Somebody wants to be the Vanity
This
Fair
is like they
Oscars
call
dinner.
it nerd. Yeah, they call it nerd prom to try to be cool, right? But it's bigger than that. These are people, and I've said this a million times. These are people who did not get the lead in the School musical, and they have decided to destroy the world instead through the means of whatever industry, whether it be politics or journalism now. And that's what these people are. I've seen them. I get it. I know it. Show business was my background. I understand it looks really cool from the outside, but a lot of these people, they just aren't cool, and they want to be cool and they want to be famous. And I mean, I joke, but also Pete Hegseth, I mean, his whole MO is content and his phone and making cool videos. And these people are so deeply broken that this is what they're trying to use to fill the dark hole inside of their bodies. And Pete Hegseth this morning did I guess if you can even call it a press conference. For people who don't know, TMZ, which is kind of a gossipy West Coast website, they report, gossipy stuff. They've opened a DC office, which I think is brilliant.
Yes.
I think this is the most needed thing that DC, I mean, the fact, first of all, they're outsiders. They're not insiders the people like Julie's talking about, right? Oh, that's funny. Hi, Annabelle.
Me too.
They don't need the access because there's literally 3 guys running this office, maybe a couple, admin. So they're showing up to this stuff and they're looking for scoops to ruin people's lives.
Well, when Congress was out, when the government was shut down, they were getting their audience to go and take pictures of Congress people on vacation wherever they were.
Well, you know what? There's a tradition of this, because do you remember during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, Larry Flint, the publisher, the departed now publisher of Hustler, said that this is complete hypocrisy and he was going to dig up Republicans who voted to impeach Bill Clinton for having an extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky. He was going to dig up their own extramarital affairs. And thanks to Larry Flynt, not just Newt Gingrich, but I forgot who the congressman was who was the anointed successor to Newt Gingrich as speaker. Both of them got taken down because both of them had the same kind of extramarital affair issues. And God bless, you want to cheat on your wife? That's between you and your wife. I'm not going to judge you. But you better not impeach somebody
when
for
you
that.
throw that sword. I will say this is one of the best pieces of advice Steve Schmidt ever gave us when I worked at Lincoln Project was if you were going to throw a sword at someone, you better make sure that there's no blood that splatters back on yourself.
Yeah.
You better be clean and buttoned up. And you know, that's the problem with all of these Republicans. They think that they're invincible and they are not.
And the funny thing is, of course, after the first two guys went down, after Gingrich, and it's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm trying to remember who the guy was who was his successor, also went down. Who did they land on? Dennis Hastert. Well, Dennis Hastert was speaker for a very long time until he went down for a bunch of different things. But now, I believe, I forgot if he was in prison for tax evasion. But the bottom line is, as a wrestling coach, he molested a bunch of kids in high school when he was a high school wrestling coach. So, like, you know, the complete and utter just hypocrisy of all this shit. And I'm glad that TMZ is doing this. I'm glad that Larry Flynt did what he did in the 90s.
Fantastic.
Because the mainstream media in the 90s did not do it. The Washington Post, God bless, the Graham still owned it then. The New York
Did we lose Julie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're a little frozen, Julie. I don't know if you can hear us, but I just want to piggyback on that because like these are people who are not part of the Beltway nonsense. Like there's a reason why these journalists don't want to report on these stories because they don't want to be on the outs with the staff or the member of Congress or the senator or the, you know, lobbyist on K Street, whomever it is. They don't want to be on the outs because not only are they the lifeline to their careers, but also in social aspects as well. These are all these people socialize with each other. It's like, and this is another reason why I think the LA DC comparison is really appropriate here, because when you go to LA, right, everybody works in show business. Everybody wants to be an actor. Everybody wants you to read their screenplay, whether it's the barista or the guy parking your car in the valet or your lawyer. Like everybody is trying to get something. Right? It's the same in DC. Everybody works for the government or works adjacent in politics or something like that. It is all the same industry and it is extremely incestuous. And that's the difference between towns like DC and LA and places like New York. Because in New York, you can sit at the bar on West 45th Street and you can have a trumpet player, you know, a guy who's rigging up the lights and Alec Baldwin and somebody else like and some lawyer who works in Murray Hill. Like, and everybody sits at the bar together and nobody has anything in common except the fact that they live there. And DC needs outsiders. That's why we need outsiders, not just covering it, but people who are representing us, because they're so far up their own asses that they cannot see how the rest of the world lives or how we think or the way that regular people are suffering in this country.
But I got to tell you, even the ones that come in as outsiders then become very comfortable.
I know.
Once they hang out in the Senate dining room or once they have the private members only elevators. And like, I will say this, I am personally close to several members of Congress, right? When I go down to DC, which I try not to do, but when I go down there and I see them in Washington, they are different people than when they're back home in their districts. Like back home in their districts, they are literally on their hands and knees pulling up weeds out of their backyard. When they go to Washington, the attitude just changes because they have, and I used to be a staffer, so I know this. When you are a staffer, you don't sleep at night because you're constantly working. And every waking moment that you have is in service of trying to make your boss look good. Yeah. And when you have a staff of 10 or 20 or 50 or however many, you know, staff members they have, whose entire existence is about your sanctification and your advancement, it goes to your head. I'm sorry. You could be the most, you know, humble person in the world. It goes to your head. The one person I would say that did not become that guy is Tom Malinowski, who unfortunately is not back in Congress. But nicest guy in the world, never changed. Everybody else, and there are people who I love. Like, I love these people. They're like family to me. But yet they're very different people when they're in Washington. They just are.
Fame does weird things to people. Fame does weird things to people. Fame and power.
Sorry,
go ahead.
points at Tom Malinowski for campaigning very active for Ana Lilia, who beat him in the primary and for the election. Just looking up, the president of the White House Press Association is Weijia Zhang, who is senior White House correspondent for CBS News.
Okay.
That means that she's going to get a moment at the microphone where normally that person does a tribute to the First Amendment, to the value of journalism, sitting right next to, having been schmoozing with the guy who calls everyone in that room who does journalism supposedly fake news, who's trying in every way possible to destroy it, who's taking over state media. So we had to listen to what she says and how, because she's in that position and she works for CBS News. And then, of course, Trump gets his time at the microphone to try to be funny.
It's not.
And God knows. Now, let's also remember the history here is that there's a credible theory that we can blame Trump's presidency on this very event.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that when Barack Obama made fun of Donald Trump for good reason at the dinner, got good laughs, there were good jokes, Trump was so enraged, and he's such a narcissist that he had to. His war with Obama started then, and his campaign for president started then. Mm-hmm. This is a horrible event. It is a horrible event, and it speaks to the larger way that Washington coverage is done, as you've both been saying. It's insider. It's about access. It always covers politics from the perspective of the politicians, never from the perspective of the citizens and the residents.
The only White House Correspondents' Dinner that is memorable in my mind, that I think really kind of stuck it to everybody, was when Stephen Colbert, during the Bush administration,
Oh my God, yes.
he was the, I forgot what they called him. Basically, he was the comedian that they hired to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he did it in his old Comedy Central Stephen Colbert persona, where he played this, blowhard Bill O'Reilly type guy, right?
This
The whole
man
treat
stands
thing.
on things.
And that Stephen Colbert was, Stephen Colbert generally is brilliant, but that version of Stephen Colbert was just amazing. And he did it looking George Bush in the face and just destroyed him in his Stephen Colbert kind of way. And that's it. And they were so appalled that ever since then, I forgot who was the woman with the red hair whose name I can't remember. She also was really
Michelle.
Michelle something. I cannot remember her name.
She kind of talks like this, but she's really funny.
Also tough. And then ever since then, they're like, oh no,
no comedians. And
we can't possibly have a comedian. We can't possibly offend the president. Why the hell not?
It's so funny when she called her Lydia she called Huckabee.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Michelle Wolf.
she's like, she burns up her lies to make a little ash to make a nice smoky eye.
Exactly.
Smoky eye. It was great. Let us note that Colbert on May 5, as his show winds down, is going to Chicago to interview Obama in the Obama Presidential Museum.
With his first interview from the
Take
space.
that, Donald Trump.
Let me tell you this. Let me tell you this about Colbert. Sorry, Michelle. Go ahead. Go.
No, I was just going to say that I think another thing for people to know and understand about Colbert doing that set in front of Bush is that if you were in the room, and I just know this because I've read a lot about it, if you were in the room, nobody was laughing.
Right,
that was super awkward. Yeah. It was like you could hear a pin drop. There was a couple like ha-ha-has and groans because people were so uncomfortable. Stephen Colbert wasn't performing for them. He was performing for us. He was performing for everybody at home, understanding how important it was to hold him accountable and to provide catharsis for the American people. And
how much harder it is as a comedian to keep going and not get reactions from the audience you're in front of. I mean, just amazing.
Incredible.
Because I'll tell you, I went to go see Jerry Seinfeld a couple of weeks ago at the Newark PAC in scenic Newark, New Jersey, which is hilarious because he does a stand-up at the Beacon Theater down the street from my house all the time, but I have to go to New Jersey to see him. It doesn't matter. He vibed off the audience in ways that you could he fed off of it. You could just see that he was I cannot imagine what it is like. And all for anyone, one of us who've done public speaking at all, sit there and have somebody just be stone faced as you're talking and making jokes that you think are funny, but they don't think are funny, and how hard that is. And he did it, and he did it incredibly well. And that's why Stephen Colbert is the best for a number of other reasons too. He's just a decent, wonderful, amazing person, and he will be just fine. And what a loss to the nation, and what a loss to CBS that his voice will not be with us consistently every day or every weekday. It is just such an unforced error. I get that the show was not making money. There were probably other things they could have done, but mitigate. But you know, I hope Netflix or somebody picks him up. But I think he's just fine. He doesn't even need.
I think my hope and prayer is he's on YouTube. I think that's where he'll be biggest.
He will be. I think he absolutely is going to be leading the charge with the next frontier.
You know, this week it was interesting. There were two stories. A Hollywood Reporter did a story on the death of the monoculture, arguing that the last time that all of America, not all of America, but the most of America watched something was the 2014 Oscars with the Bradley Cooper selfie.
Right.
And that was the last moment of the monoculture. You can pick a lot of moments where mass media dies.
Yeah.
Right. So CBS doesn't matter. Broadcast television doesn't matter. Linear television on any format doesn't matter. And I think that Colbert could be the king of YouTube. I've talked on the show before how I introduced Howard Stern to YouTube years ago when he was negotiating his contract, and the hope that he could have been YouTube, and YouTube dropped the ball stupidly. He could have been the king of all media, including YouTube. That's where I think he could have the most impact on democracy as well, because we can all share it. I mean, that's what happens now, of course, is the clips are the ones we share on Facebook and YouTube. They're there anyway, but he could make that into a business.
100%. And listen, I mean, people have asked him if he, excuse me, is going to run for office, and he's not said no. So there's that too. But I don't see that I don't see him doing that, because I know his sister ran for Congress a number of years ago.
He's too big to run.
Yeah, I think he's too good for it. Like he will have such a bigger impact staying in the lane of, you know, entertainment and information and really being a leader, because what does this moment need more than anything are leaders, because our side doesn't have a whole lot of them. And they certainly, I mean, there's a lot of cowards out there. A lot of the artists are not showing up. Who are the artists that are showing up?
Amen.
Bruce Springsteen, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel.
And,
Do you know what I mean? It's just, they're not enough.
I'll say this as somebody who loves Bruce. Obviously, I'm from New Jersey, so you have to love Bruce.
It's a law.
It's a law. You can't leave. You know, you can't leave New Jersey to pledge allegiance to Bruce Springsteen. Not John Bon Jovi, by the way, Springsteen. But Bruce is almost 80. JBJ, I have so many stories. No good.
I know. He's cheesy. I don't like him.
Anyway, so but Bruce is almost 80. And Colbert is, I don't know how old Colbert is, but he's, you know, in his 60s, I guess, maybe late 50s. And Jimmy Kimmel's, I think, same, you know, my age or older. Where is Taylor Swift? Like, where
don't even get me started. Don't even get me started.
No, but I mean, like, where are all these young Ariana Grande, like people who actually influence the youths, right? Like,
I feel rage about this, because again, like, I'm looking at my own community I mean, I haven't performed in a long time, but the theater, right, are the most outspoken of all the performers. Not afraid of being canceled or anything. Maybe that's just because they're not famous, but the rest of them are just so afraid. They're afraid of their overlords. They're afraid of losing followers. They're afraid of all of it. And they're cowards and they're afraid of losing money at the end of the day. That's what this is about. And, you know, I have baby boomer parents, and I was raised on the soundtrack of the 60s. And I think about all of that music that my generation, you know, grew up on through our parents listening to the oldie stations, and the stories that music told. And again, it was a voice of a generation, you know, crying out against injustice, whether that be war or civil rights violations or against women, whatever the case, that music, there's a reason that music has staying power because it still resonates today. And that music is not being made today. Those artists do not exist anymore. There's very, very few. And it's a travesty. Jesse Wells,
Joan?
just somebody said in the chat, absolutely. Jesse Wells should be more famous. I wish he was.
Yes. And who sang with him? Joan Baez.
There
Joan
you go.
Baez, Linda Ronstadt, Jane Fonda, Dolly Parton,
Yeah.
back in the day, right? These are
Yeah.
people who stood up for, and I'm a child of the 60s, and it motivated it taught me the moral of the age. It was the stars of the time.
And I think
Yeah.
it's so disappointing because you had, and maybe it's the way the music industry is now, Jeff, you know more about this than anybody, but I think obviously the record label is much more important now and so on. But you have people who are powerful enough, like Taylor Swift, who could do whatever the hell she wants. Like,
Yep.
so what, Taylor Swift? You're going to piss off a couple of people, you know.
It's the whole Michael Jordan
You
thing.
can't take the money out of your bank account. It's already there.
Yeah.
Right.
And how much, and
Republicans buy sneakers too. I'm like, okay, well, do you want Nazis buying your sneakers? I don't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's more important to you?
you know, I don't know. The whole thing is just, So
let's look at this. So at the same time that there was that Hollywood Reporter story about the end of the monoculture, the New York Times did a story. I'm going to come back to the politics in a second on how to be cultured, and it's this belief that the New York Times is still in a position to decide what culture is. They're not anymore.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift is the rare artist today who has a huge monoculture audience. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. And so it's all the harder to come up with 10 or 100 singers who can equal one Taylor Swift, who can equal one Linda Ronstadt in the day, who can speak out. To bring together a movement now requires more effort, more organization, more people, because we are smaller. And I celebrate that because we have more of a pluralistic culture in society now. We have more people creating more art, and there's more choice than there has ever been before, as people don't have to walk the gauntlet of the studios and the labels to the level that they did. But it makes it harder to organize in a time of political crisis. And so who's going to lead that? A Taylor Swift could lead that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I, now she's dealing with, her soon to be husband's career and his whole thing. And we can't upset the football people. And it's just, it's so stupid. I saw somebody in the chat mention Katy Perry. I'm like, well, Katy Perry, whose bestie is Lauren Sanchez. So until she has the cojones to come out against Jeff Bezos.
And speaking of which, because the other big event of the spring, besides the White House Correspondents' Dinner, is the Met Gala, which is coming up, I believe, is it this coming Monday or a week from Monday? It's in the next
first Monday. It's the first.
I got to check
Monday
my calendar and see when I have to get my talk.
Yeah, I hope
it's the first Monday in May. So
we're creative on the stuff of the Met there, Jeff. But it's the problem that we're dealing with here is you have Anna Wintour, who again was kind of setting culture for a very long time, has understood that Condé Nast is on its last legs. Vogue does not have the power that it once did, which means that she does not have the power that she once did, even though she now is running Condé Nast effectively, or not running it, but she's I think the creative director. The Met Gala is her big thing. It does raise money for the Costume Institute at the Met, so I guess ostensibly it's for a good cause, but really it's for this glorification of Anna Wintour.
Yeah,
and what drives me insane is that she has effectively, because she needs money for this thing, allowed Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos to take over this event. And she's surrounding them with Nicole Kidman, and I forgot who else is co-hosting along with the two of them. But Lauren Sanchez, I cannot imagine is Anna Wintour's cup of tea from the way she dresses.
Oh God, no.
Looks. It's the same as the Kardashians, right? Like she started inviting the Kardashians because they were in the zeitgeist, so she didn't want to get behind the zeitgeist. Yeah. But this thing has turned from the days of, Princess Anna showing up in the 90s and people just showing up wearing, interesting costumes to now becoming this Access Hollywood type event. And I think what's so gross about this is the billionaireification of our culture is because basically complete. Because you can't buy, you used to be that you couldn't buy like whatever Anna Wintour was selling. But
Right.
now you
It was
can.
beyond you. Yes. Well,
Yeah.
not only that, you don't care what she's selling because what's hot is what's on Instagram,
Right.
Right.
what's on
right.
Pinterest, what's elsewhere, what's on
Right.
on TikTok.
The trickle
well,
down from the Met
it's trickle
Gala,
up now.
like, right.
It's up now, and I think it matters. So I
Yeah.
want to give you two cultural notes here. One is that Daily Beast reports April 24th. Is that today? Yes. So hot news that Devil Wears Prada, a main character in the Romana Clay of it, is supposedly based on Lauren Sanchez Bezos.
Yes, I know. I saw that.
So that'll be fun to see. The other is, so Bezos supposedly, he's not done the, give up everything, give up all my money pledge that my friend Craig Newmark has done and others have done. But he did create a fund, a foundation, and supposedly it was going to be about environment because his company has impact on the environment. So that would make sense as a way to try to make up for it. So the Bezoses, and by the way, to answer your question last week, Julie, the Times policy is that you are Ms. unless you request to be Mrs.
That's
So she requested to be Mrs.
That's what I thought.
in the Times. So the Bezos Earth Fund has just given $34 million in grants. Okay, you might ask, to what environmental cause might this be? To donating to fashion grants to accelerate the production of sustainable textiles. I mean, okay, but given that we're living in a world of fascism and we're living in a world where the Doge is literally killed people by taking grants away that we were giving to poor people in other countries, that people are dying through disease. Okay, you're going to have nicer fabrics because obviously she's put herself in with the fashion industry and that's how she's going to make a go of it.
My cousin used to work at Vogue, and I remember her telling me about the chatter, like how they would judge people by what they were wearing.
Riding the elevator was like walking a runway.
Right. And it was like if a girl came in with a new pair of Louboutins. Now, if anybody doesn't know what Louboutins are, they're really expensive shoes that have the red bottoms.
Even
if
I
a girl,
know.
even
Even I.
if a girl would come in wearing those,
uncomfortable, deeply
the most uncomfortable. I don't know why people
I wouldn't
wear
know.
them. Other than like, oh, look at bottoms, which is the kind of the whole purpose, I think, of wearing them. And she said that everybody would be because they'd be like, oh, she must have gotten her first paycheck and bought herself a pair of shoes. Like she's trying so hard. Like, ew, how trashy. Like she said, that's how everybody would talk. And so I'm thinking about a Lauren Sanchez, who is the human embodiment of a Louboutin shoe. Like, like the chatter at Vogue must be nonstop making fun of her. Yeah. I guarantee it, because again, they don't pay anybody very much over there either. So they're all looking for young women who have the means to work a job 80 hours a week for $30,000 a year.
She doesn't care because there's rumor that they're buying Condé Nast.
Who is?
Bezos.
Bezos, yeah. Well, so and Condé Nast may be making itself ready for sale, because other news this week is that they have shut down Self, which was not a magazine anymore, but was an online service. Yeah. They've shut down Glamour in Germany, and Glamour, as well as Spain and Mexico. And Glamour in Germany was a big deal in its day. Wired's operation in Italy, it's boom, truncating down and down and down. And so there's not much pity, and I should plug myself. I wrote a book about all of this, my elegy to the magazine industry. Get a little book called Magazine, only $11. Also an audiobook.
Is it on sale on Amazon?
I don't. Bloomsbury has a nice discount.
Okay,
you can buy directly from the publisher.
See, we like that. Yeah.
Yes. By the way, Us magazine is supposedly going to cut half its staff. The magazines really? As a genre had a century, and they're dying.
Yep.
They could have been better. They could have learned that they were maypoles for community around which people gathered, but they didn't learn that. They still thought they had the ego that we manufacture content. I'm David Remnick, and I get to decide what's what. I'm the New York Times, and I get to decide what's culture. I'm Anna Wintour, and I get to decide what is fashion and taste. No more. Gone. Over.
To their own detriment.
And they never opened up to that larger generosity of culture that the internet enabled. And so they're dying, and they're dying before their eyes. So yeah, I think there's a possibility that Bezos would, just as Sam Newhouse bought Condé Nast in the first place many, many years ago as a toy or tribute to his wife, so could Jeff Bezos buy Condé Nast as a toy or tribute to his latest wife.
Well, the problem is that it's great if he buys Vogue for her, and God bless, but in addition to that, he will also be buying something like the New Yorker. And say what you will about David Remnick.
Yeah.
It is still an excellent.
It's still a journalistic institution.
Very few pictures. Very few pictures.
And you know, I would hate to see the New Yorker go the way of the Washington Post. I cannot imagine that Remnick sticks around if that were the case. And God knows what would happen to the New Yorker if it went the way of the Washington Post. And that
Wired as well. Wired with some missteps has
Wired.
Been doing political reporting and doing a good job.
Incredible.
They shut down Teen Vogue. What a loss that is. Teen Vogue was doing great. Teen Vogue was doing
I used
Absolutely.
to get that, like the hard copy. I used to quarterly.
They brought up some really important writers and journalists.
Yeah, I don't know why Teen Vogue was actually under the Vogue banner, because it was much more political than that. But it was very, very, very good. They shut that down. And, you know, again, maybe because I don't care so much about fashion that I don't care about Vogue. I don't think I've ever looked through an entire Vogue in my life. But sorry, Anna.
It takes about an hour and a half in the old days, or that thick on September.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, September issue, you'd have at least 100 pages of just perfume ads. Yeah.
I'm not Sarah Jessica Parker. Like, couldn't care less. But I will say that, so maybe for me to say this is, you know, other people might have a different view. I don't care what happens to Vogue. If Lauren Sanchez wants the gift of Vogue so that they could put her on the cover every month and talk about what a great fashion icon she is, which is hilarious, fine. But that's not what's happening. So
the other thing, go ahead, Michelle.
No, I just wanted to say, just on the note of Vogue, is I do care a little bit, just because I'm sad about what has happened to just the fashion industry at large, because, you know, some of the greatest artists of the 20th century came out of the fashion industry. Christian Dior, you know, I mean, what was living in occupied Paris, you know, and came out and gave a breath of fresh air to, you know, in a post-war Europe and America. And it's just sad that all of that has been so bastardized and so watered down and cheapened. It's really sad, and also just not accessible. Not that, like, you know, Chanel, I would never buy Chanel because she was a Nazi, but Dior was ever accessible to an average person. But you know, to see it and to appreciate it, I think everybody could do, and it's just very sad to me now that
I think so. I'll agree with that, but I also think that parallel to media's opening of fashion, that young women can now set their own fashion and 100%. Set their own fashion trends and make those trends, and that people from other cultural backgrounds can now have much more of a voice in what is fashion.
It's a melting pot. Really,
and that it's not so monolithic as it was. I think that's all something to perhaps celebrate. Yeah. But it all indicates it's the death of all these institutions. The fact that we have, back to the White House press corps, you know, how many of the institutions that are going to sit in that room have now been taken over by oligarchs, and on our state media and so on. And it goes beyond this. There were two stories this week I'll squeeze in. Peter Thiel is backing a new startup in which he thinks that he can fix journalism after having, remember, it was Peter Thiel who destroyed Gawker.
Oh, yes.
You can pay $2,000 to have researchers and AI decide whether or not a news story is true or not. And then Mark Andreessen thinks he can fix journalism because he's backed a new site that's going to monitor the situation constantly. So as media die in their old form, these rich people think that they can take it over. As fashion dies in its old form, rich people can take it over. As culture dies in its old form, rich people think they can take it over. The joke's on them in the end because they're buying husks of what once was.
Yes.
But it's still, as you say, Michelle, it's still sad to see considering what was.
And I if a rich person happens to watch this, probably won't, but I'm speaking
You can invest in first Mayday. Let's start there.
But if you're one of the bad rich people who we don't like, there is no amount of money that is ever going to buy you talent or taste or class. These things cannot be bought.
Or trust.
Yeah.
Or trust. These things cannot be bought. There is no amount of money that will ever make you into the person that you wish you were and the person who got cast in the School Musical. And that's why South Park, this is why South Park did this. And I'm just going to play this.
The Antichrist. I'm Peter Thiel and I know about the Antichrist. Let's learn about the Antichrist today.
Amazing.
Gentleman and lady, I got to run. I have a meeting that I'm already late to, which is what that phone call was about. You can continue without me, though. Is that okay?
It's where I think
we've pretty much gone through it.
All right. Well,
the weekend commences for us.
Have the best time ever at watching the White House Correspondents' Dinner. If you are so inclined to watch C-SPAN, I will not be. See who's making their way up to Barry Weiss's table.
Oh, I will be.
C-SPAN trains his camera. If you're from C-SPAN and you happen to be watching this, train your camera on the CBS table just so we could see what's going on.
Yeah.
That's some subversive act. Yes, please.
Yes.
Yeah. I should go through LinkedIn and see if I can find any C-SPAN.
Because there are two things that you will find, as Jeff pointed out, at the CBS table. One, I don't know why there are balloons.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. One is who is sucking up to Barry Weiss. The other is you will also simultaneously be able to see what's in Pete Hegseth's cup.
Right.
How is he sipping it? Is he chugging it? Is he pounding it? Is he smashing it like a beer bottle on the table?
Right.
Waiter, can I get another martini? Waiter.
And friends, if you happen to be at any parties this weekend in Washington, not the Substack one, but if you're at any parties in Washington, you happen to see Pete Hegseth, let us know what he's drinking.
Yeah,
and
if you're invited to the Ellison tribute to the White House, let us know who else is there because it's a private event.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say also that TMZ asked Pete Hegseth this morning if he was on a power trip. Straight out. They used those words. Are you on a power trip? And he said, that's a very TMZ question. Yes, it is. Welcome to DC.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Subversive.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Bye,
See you
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great weekend. Happy birthday, Julie.
Thank
Happy
you, guys.
birthday.